welcome everyone. I know the agenda looks lengthy, but I don't think it will be a very long meeting. It's mostly procedural tonight. In the past, Caitlin, I should say, yeah, it's been a while since I've run one of these meetings. So if I veer off procedurally, please put us back back on the right road. I certainly won't be offended. So I think in the past, we've taken a formal roll call. I think we'll just go ahead and do that again, even though we can see who's here. And so I'm just going to go through my list. Let's see. Tom O'Brien, just say here or present. Thought I saw Tom.
Hi, Tom. It looks like you're here, but it looks like you're muted on your end. If you wanted to try and unmute your microphone so we can hear that you're here. Maybe circle back, Jane?
Sure. Chuck Griffin?
Yes.
And actually, I should have said, just for tonight, why don't we say what committee we're representing, or if we're at large, just for our new member here.
Griffin is with Parks Commission.
Thank you. Joe Texera?
Yeah, I'm here, and I'm here for the Conservation Commission.
Jamie Gagnon?
Here, and I'm a at large.
Jen Bluestein? I don't believe Jen is with us yet anyway, or tonight. Mark Rosen? No. I know Mike Dissett is out tonight. Tom O'Brien?
Here for representing the Housing Authority.
Great to hear your voice, Tom. I'm here, I'm an at-large committee member. And we also have Biff, and am I saying Baus? How do you pronounce your last name?
Yeah, that's correct. Like house with a B.
Great. Biff has not been appointed formally by the council yet, but he is here.
On behalf of the Historical Commission.
Great. Welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Biff, or anyone else, if you have any questions about, we'll be going through the process of the presentations and deliberation a bit. Just stop and stop us, and if you have any questions.
Will do. Thank you very much.
Hopefully be able to answer them.
Glad to be on board.
So let's see. And next agenda item is we have a late file application for the FEMA Hazard Mitigation Program Plum Island property acquisition. The committee will need to vote on this to accept it as a late file. Oh, Caitlin, did you just say something?
No, not me.
Oh, sorry. I heard something in the background. So I think, I'll allow discussion, but why don't we go ahead? If someone could make a motion to accept this application, that'd be great.
I make a motion to accept the application as a late file.
And who was that, Jamie?
Jamie?
And do we have a second?
Second.
Who was the second there?
Joe.
Okay, great. Any discussion? I have a quick point or question. I know that Mike had sent in a question to the planning office. I don't think we received it back in terms of if there is any alternative funding available for this this match that's part of this application. I don't think we've heard back yet, but hoping to hear back prior to the presentation so that we'll have that information to consider. I don't think that affects the motion though, so I'll put it up for a vote. Tom O'Brien.
Yes.
Chuck Griffin.
Yes.
Joe Texera.
Yes.
Jamie Gagnon.
Yes.
And I also am a yes as vice chair. All right, unanimous there. Okay, so a quick overview, and this is again, anyone stop me as I go through this with any questions of the CPA and CPC application review process. Tonight, we're going to set the schedule for the process that will include presentations. We have 2 dates reserved for presentations for applicants. and one night for deliberations. And sometimes it feels pretty daunting. We're thinking, yeah, we have to discuss this in one night. But I really can't think of a time, and I've been on this committee for quite a long time, that we haven't been able to get through it. We have a pretty good process. And Mike will be present for that, and he'll go through that process that night. And how we can go about that. And yeah, there's flexibility within that as well. But I think we've all worked pretty well together to get that done. You'll find in the staff report, let's see. What we can do is, if you have any questions while you're reviewing the materials, and you'd like more information or specificity, or if you have any questions at all, we can email Caitlin and she'll pass those questions on to the applicants. If you could do that and give them enough time prior to their presentations so that they're available to, they have that information to respond to that night, that would be great. You'll find in the packet that Caitlin sent out, there's a letter from the mayor explaining his priorities. This letter is advisory only. As a committee, we are not obligated to follow those recommendations. Personally, I find it helpful to have it's like a window into the administration's thought process. So I find it helpful, but I just want to make it clear that we do not need to follow the recommendations. There's also a letter from the city solicitor providing guidance on rehabilitation and maintenance of physical structures. These questions have come up in the past on what is eligible for CPA funding, what is not. Read through that, and if you have any questions, follow up with Caitlin or Mike or myself, and we'll get those answers. And finally, the Community Preservation Coalition. I hope that everyone has their how to find them on the web. It's a very helpful organization that leads the way in technical assistance for especially eligibility of the applications. And so I often will go on there when I'm looking at looking through the applications to see, well, how should I, can we do this? How to actually think about the application. And they have a lot of background information on the Community Preservation Act as well. And you can see what other municipalities are doing for projects, which is always interesting too, if you have enough interest in that. Let's see, are we going to set the date, or should we talk about the date now? Those dates. I think, why don't we take a look at the calendar then? That's where we'll take this up. Caitlin sent it out in the staff report that our next meeting will be February 29th, and that will be the first meeting for presentations. That will be at 7 o'clock. We're going to discuss later if that's over Zoom or in person. Following meeting is March 7th at 7 o'clock. That'll be the second night for presentations. And then we have deliberations set for March 21st, again, 7 p.m.
Hi, Jane, it's Caitlin. I will note for the committee that the applications under each one of these nights may shuffle slightly. As I heard from the Custom House today, that February 29th may not work for them. So they may get shuffled to the March date. And I may have to move an application or two to the February 29th date. So these may shift slightly, but minimally, hopefully.
And you'll give us a heads up, I'm sure.
I will. Yep.
Okay, great. Are there any questions? Did I miss anything about the process that we're going to go through? Anybody's hands up? No? I can't believe I was that thorough, really. Okay, overview of applications received. Caitlin just had that up. I would like to point out that we're obligated to actually 10% of our estimated revenue for the CPA funding has to go to different categories. And so community housing, we need to allocate at least 10% of funds to affordable housing, at least 10% to historical preservation, and at least 10% to open space. Right now, we're well below the 10% for community housing, and in the staff report, Caitlin, I believe you wrote that the Housing Trust is asking for that, any additional funds not asked for in that application to go toward I'm reading it now.
Yes, so the
Uh,
housing trust issue to ask you all to, so there's a little bit to be left over. You know, the YWU has asked for 15,750. The remainder they're asking to be recommended go to the housing trust. The
Right.
other option, so there's two options. It could either go, you know, to someone like the housing trust or to the housing reserve fund, which is ultimately you know, controlled by the city council. So it would go to their community housing reserve fund, which also would require a vote by the CPC to use them, but it's ultimately controlled by the city council rather than the housing trust. So there's the difference there.
So the difference is about $118,000. And so when we're looking at that bottom line of 1.63 million, we also have to consider that additional 118. I think it's 306.
Exactly. And I was going to ask you all, do you think I should be, so that's kind of out there, and should we add a line under community housing about that? Just so that's kind of included in the total?
I think that would be helpful, especially when we
Okay.
go into deliberations, so that, you know, before, so that we remember that, that
Yes.
total, you know, we're.
Yeah, and
considering.
the two options that you just outlined.
Okay. Absolutely. I think that'll be really helpful. I'll
Okay.
revise that tomorrow.
Perfect. Thank you.
Just a note, I see that we were just joined by Andy Port, Planning Director as well.
I'm sorry.
Just wanted to note for the committee that we're just joined by Andy Port, the Planning Director.
Oh, great. Hi, Andy.
Hi there. Sorry, just at the NYS presentation. Thank you.
Any questions, comments about the list of applications before we move on? Seeing none. I was ahead. I already did E. We already did E, so we can move on. Draft CPA budget. Caitlin, thank you for forwarding this. This really shows, you know, our estimated revenue. And then there's undesignated funds. So some of those roll over from the last fiscal year where funds weren't used, especially you'll see the debt service. Those projects apparently haven't gone out to bid, so we didn't have to make those payments. And then there's some other funds in there as well. And so that adds to our total. The FY25 obligations, those are primarily bond payments on projects that have that were recommended by the CPC and then approved by City Council or awaiting approval, depending on the project. So we subtract those and we have a total of about $1.2 million estimated for us to recommend for funding. Any questions there before we move on? All right, thank you. Quarterly reports. I saw that there were two batches. One was in Caitlin's original email, and then an additional few were sent out more recently. Anything up for discussion on the quarterly reports? Anyone saw that stood out for them? All right. Approval of minutes from October 19th. Caitlin, we have to take a formal vote on this, right?
Yes, that's right. Thank you.
Okay. Do I have a motion for approval of minutes from October 19th?
So moved.
Second,
Second,
any discussion? Hearing none. Chuck Griffin, how do you vote?
yes.
Joe Texera,
Yes.
Jamie Gagnon,
Yes,
Tom O'Brien.
Yes,
Actually, I wasn't at that meeting, so I need to abstain. So does that mean we only have 4?
Yep, that means we have 4. So I can add that to the next agenda.
Okay.
So I'll add the 1019 minutes and then these 118 minutes.
Okay,
for
great.
approval.
On the screen sharing, I'm seeing Rachel's blank screen. I don't know if that's delivered or not. Or it's
You're not seeing the agenda right now?
no, it switched over to Rachel.
I see the agenda. It might be your prioritization of who or what is showing in Zoom.
Really, it just kind of switched.
You can accidentally hit like there's a pin button.
I haven't touched anything. Oh, it says remove pin now. I think zoomed that on its own. Now, Andy, I see you. Switch to sharing content. All righty. Thank you very much. Okay. Oh, so talking about how we're for the upcoming presentations and deliberation meetings, we've heard from a few folks that would prefer a live or a hybrid meeting. I'm not sure. There might be other folks that are more interested in staying through Zoom online. So I just wanted to open that up to thoughts among the committee members.
What are the rules?
Caitlin or Andy, do you have? I don't know if there are any rules at this point.
So sorry, rules with respect to.
With respect to, we're still allowed to have 100% online meetings if we want.
Yeah,
Or the
I mean, you
public
have
meeting rules?
the policy preference right now. There isn't a city ordinance that dictates how each board is doing that. So some boards have decided to maintain the remote or connection. Some are doing a hybrid. Some are doing only in person. Depends on the circumstances. I will note, just for the committee members to be clear, we have been trying, at least our office has been trying to advocate for some better equipment for the meeting rooms. And I know that the city council chambers, they have also been looking for some better equipment. Unfortunately, we just found out that our recently hired IT director, who's been making a lot of good changes, will unfortunately be leaving at the end of the month or going into February. So we'll have to get a new person to pick up where he left off. With that, we were kind of hoping that would be mobilized. So unfortunately, we have run into some technical issues with the in-person end of the connection to the hybrid piece. So, we've been able to kind of, manage through that, but which is one of the reasons why both the two primary permitting boards, planning board and ZBA, are meeting in person with hybrid. But some of the other boards, looking to avoid some of those technical issues and just, with a little bit more time available to keep that option open, they wanted to maybe see if there was better equipment, at least in the room. So I'll leave that to you.
Andy, what are the rooms available for this size group, considering applicants?
Generally speaking, we're not able to meet in this council chambers. That's, the council has enough meetings these days that they kind of need that to reserve it all the time. So, at any rate, we typically meet at the senior community center. I think for a group like this, I would say for our discussion, typically like the senior community center, boardroom upstairs. Now we do have to check with them on the schedule, to, make sure we have bookings for a space. That could typically be like a good space. The function room downstairs, we might use only one of those spaces near the stage. If we were to use that, again, that space is used a lot. The police station, which has been used in the past, is a very tight space to do the meetings. And so I don't think any of us probably want to go back to that space. It's a little too tight when you're doing presentations with applicants and all the board members are there and everything. So, again, there's the library space, but again, we have to check with them to see on scheduling. So, the mayor's conference room at City Hall is available, but that ends up being a little tighter with the table that kind of fills out the room, a lot of it. So if we're having review of applications with applicants and all commission members or committee members, that might be a little bit tight there. So people tend to avoid the auditorium because of hot and cold seasons and too large of a space. So it depends on the dates and what you're kind of looking for. But ideally, like I like the senior community center boardroom would be great for this type of meeting in my view. But.
Okay, thank you. So that would depend on the dates available, though.
Correct. Yeah, we would have to check with them, just to make sure.
Okay. Any other thoughts on this in the committee? I think I'll do an informal poll after, but just curious to hear from members.
Charles, Chuck
Chuck?
has his hand up.
Hi, Chuck.
Yes, my thinking on this, I really love the efficiency of these early meetings. You're to be commended, and all of us appreciate they're done in an hour. But it would seem to me this time we have a lot less money. I mean, there's not the money available that we've fortunately had the last few years as far as covering everything. And I was thinking the next 3 meetings, the 2 presentation meetings and the decision meeting, I think it would be very helpful to have it in person at the senior center, ideally.
Anybody else?
I would,
Caitlin, I'm assuming for those 2 days or those couple of dates, we haven't yet been able to, we haven't looked out, to see whether or not the senior center would be available right now. So we don't know, right?
Right.
We don't know
Okay.
yet,
Okay.
but I assume, there's a few rooms there, so it's likely something would be available. But if the committee kind of is feeling like they do want to go back for these next 3 meetings, I can look tomorrow and then circle back with everyone just to confirm that we do have a room.
Jamie, I agree with what Chuck just said. I think administrative meetings like this should be done on Zoom, but I think that deliberative meetings should be done in person. And I think that it would add something to see people present in person as well. So I think the next 3 should be done in person if possible.
Any other thoughts?
So we'll check on the physical location options and then circle back with the chair and vice chair and just confirm from there. We'll circle back to let you all know where we end up.
Okay, I really appreciate it. So I am in complete agreement. These, these quick meetings that are just administrative, I think it makes sense to be on Zoom. But when it comes to presentations and deliberations, I think the conversations just flow a lot better. I find those kind of meetings much more informative and productive when they're live. So I appreciate the flexibility. Alrighty, updates from the chair, vice chair. Well, Mike's out of the country, so he doesn't get a voice. I don't have anything in terms of updates. Andy, as planning director, do you have anything?
No, thank you. I mean, if folks have any specific questions.
All right, I guess we'll open it up to public comment. If I don't know if there is anyone out there. Caitlin, do we have anybody?
We do have one attendee. We have Jack Santos. Not sure if he's here listening or wants to speak, but Jack, if you do want to speak, now is the time to let us know. Does not seem like it at the moment.
Okay. All right. I think we've gone through it. Next meeting, February 29th, and I will hear from Caitlin on if we have available room to meet in person for that meeting and for the next 2 after that. Other than that, say a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor.
Aye.
All right. Thanks all. We'll see you soon.
Well run meeting. Thank you.
Good night.
Good
Take
night.
care.
Thank you all.
Thank you.